So, today, let's welcome Peter Kuria with Solai.
Morning.
Morning.
So the coffee is working, yeah? That is good. So thank you for having me. My name is Peter Kuria. You already said we are the sponsors of Coffee for 1 Million Cups, something that we feel is more obligation for us because we share joy with the world. And today I'm going to be telling you a little bit about our business. I think this is my second presentation, but it's been a while. We go left, Sean, or do we go right?
There.
Like always, I like starting with a question. So I'll give you a couple of seconds to throw in some numbers. What percentage of the consumer price does a coffee producer earn? 8%? 10? 5? All right. Let's figure that out in a minute. So when I wake up every morning, I think about our producers. And the reason I think about our producers is because I'm a producer myself. I was born and raised on a coffee farm. My parents started farming coffee in the early 80s. So it's been 4 decades. And for all this time, I have been involved in production of coffee in a small village called Solai, which means joy, which is also our brand name. So I'm paying homage, just I'm providing joy in a cup. And and I've seen a lot of producers struggle, and not just coffee producers, like a lot of producers. And with my presence here in the US and seeing how people are consuming coffee and seeing how much the producers are earning, I realized there was a big disconnect. And that's how I came up with the idea of launching this company for 2 or 3 reasons, actually. The first one was to fulfill my dad's dream, because for all these 40 years, he always wanted for one day to represent himself in the market. For 40 years farming coffee without knowing who is drinking your coffee, you're just handing it over to middlemen and you don't know where it ends up. So he always wanted to represent himself in the market, but he was not able to. So I realized I was going to fulfill that dream. The second thing is I started looking at how depleted our community was getting. Unemployment, kids not going to school, and being called upon to do so many fundraisers. And I was like, it's not sustainable. We need to find a way to create sustainable ways of bringing money into the community. And when I looked around, most of them are coffee farmers. And that's why I decided to create an avenue for them to offload their product at a better price so that they can take care of all these other things. So we talked about the percentage. Let's do the math. So on average, a pound of coffee, specialty, not a commercial coffee, because we have to understand that this specialty coffee, mostly farmed by small-scale farmers, it requires a state of art. And then there is the commercial coffee, mostly big estates, majority of the coffee that comes from South America. People who have big estates, they cannot afford to employ people to do the work by hand, so they're using machinery. So a pound goes for $15. When a retailer is selling it, their cost is about $8.57. They add the roasting cost because they're transforming, they're manufacturing the product from one state to the other. That is $4.89. And then the price that is paid for the green coffee before it's roasted, which includes the logistics, shipping, and import cost, it's about $4.14. FOB, freight on board. This is a farmer. They have taken their coffee to someone who is adding a little bit of value because there's something we call dry milling. And it's warehouse somewhere. And this now importer is coming to that warehouse to buy the coffee. So that's freight on board price at $3.31. Then the farm gate price for that pound is $2.88. This is the average. A lot of farmers are getting $1, even sometimes less than $1, especially the small scale farmers. So the farmer only gets about 20% of the value of coffee on average. With my experience, it's even worse because the cost of production of coffee on average is about $2. Could be high, could be lower. And the farm gate price that we saw in the other slide is $2.88. So that represents about 20% of the value. So where does all the other money go to? And this is the reason why we launched this company. As a community, as someone who has worked for a very long time, understanding businesses and understanding where the money goes and equitable value distribution, which was lacking. So how do we usually go about this? I already said we are producers, but we do not only get coffee from our farms, we also get coffee from neighboring farms. And the idea is to expand to other regions and to other countries with this business model, where we are getting straight from the farmer. There's that post-harvest value addition that has to be done. We have intermediaries. You cannot eliminate all the intermediaries, but we feel that they're unnecessary intermediaries. They wouldn't be unnecessary if they did good by the farmer. The problem is that the intermediaries end up taking majority of the money without considering inflation, without considering climate change, and I'm going to talk about those in a minute. So once you start eliminating those intermediaries, what happens is those markups that they are making in between, or the price of shipping is $1, but I'm going to mark it up 100% to $2. That's the money that is not going back to the farmer. What does it do in the value chain? What it does is that the coffee becomes too expensive now for the roaster, the coffee shop, to buy. So they have to keep the price at an affordable rate for this person who is representing the farmer at the tail end. But now what they do, they keep the money to themselves, and the producer is the one that doesn't get money. But if you start eliminating those markups, look at how much the farmer is getting. It would be nice, right? Because this now means that the farmer can live a decent livelihood, they can contribute to their community, they can build schools, they can build their healthcare, they don't need non-government organizations to come and help them because they're already working so hard to produce the coffee or to get the product. They're not lazy, they have the farms. So this is what happens when you eliminate that, those unnecessary intermediaries, or when you do it yourself. If I'm calling a logistics company to give me a space in their ship to bring the coffee from Kenya, Ethiopia, Colombia, wherever, then they're not marking it up. But if you're calling another person to call on your behalf, those are the intermediaries that we are eliminating with our business model. So this is what keeps me going every day, me and my team. The dominance, the manipulation, and the plight on the farmers. So different entities have known how to play the farmer. They have dominated them. They know that Kenya started planting coffee in 1983, not 83, 1893. The Britons were the ones who were doing majority of the farming because Ethiopia is very close to Kenya, and that's where the coffee was discovered. So as they were going along the coast and finding some countries where they could set ground, Kenya was very lucrative for coffee because of the islands, the high altitude, and the labor. So once they came into Kenya in 1893, a Kenyan citizen was not allowed to plant coffee until 1956. So it had to be the British. So 1956, that's when they allowed people to start now putting coffee on the ground. And because they had already been in that environment for a while, there was already that dominance and the manipulation to the point that you had to jump through so many hoops for you to even be allowed, not only by the British, but also the government. And that has been the case up to now, where we have a lot of price fixing. The government is working with people who are these big importers, and they come and decide how much they're going to buy the coffee. This one, it just came. I don't know whether we are surprised with what is going on the planet. We are pretty much depleting the planet, and it's telling us that we need to change our ways. The person who feels the climate change the most is the farmer, because they have to put something down and it has to depend on nature. So climate change has been a very big challenge because the patterns have changed. Some of our farmers are not as educated, so they continue doing mythical farming. We used to, instead of following the science, following the weatherman. So it becomes a challenge. And also climate change introduces different things like pests and diseases that are quite expensive to control. And what happens now is with the inflation, everything becomes expensive. If you're now starting to use pesticides or some any input to the farm, the cost goes high. But the price doesn't change. The price of coffee doesn't change, and the middleman still makes the money that they're supposed to make. So the frustration now is with the farmers, because the middleman can move to any other business. If coffee is not lucrative anymore, they can go to tea. And then there's the coffee aging dilemma, which has been a big challenge because the farmers are not able to make enough money to put back to the farm and to take their kids to school, and also to employ people, because you cannot do this work by yourself. You have to bring in people, and it's your moral obligation actually. People show up at your farm, we want work, we can see their weeds, we want you to employ us. So if you don't have that amount of money, it becomes very difficult. And part of it is actually cutting down the tree so that you can change cycle. So a tree starts bearing fruits, a coffee tree starts bearing fruits after 3 years. Then you have about 4 years after the 7th year for you now to cut down that tree so that it can bring back newer branch, a new stump produces a new now tree that is now going to bear fruits for you for the 7 years. But farmers are not able to do this, so this becomes a very big challenge. And then, are these young people going to work in a business that is a break-even business? No. So what did my parents do? They did everything they could for the 5 siblings that we have in the house, just to make sure that we don't go back to the farm. Go study, knowing that if you fail, you're going to come back to this farm, right? And that's the case across the board. You can Google, take your phones, the average age of a coffee farmer or producer in the world, leave alone Kenya, 60 to 65 years. In Kenya, it's 65 years. Those guys are old. My dad is old, but he's still, we call it a hobby business for the old people. So the young people are no longer coming to the farms. They are no longer going to learn agriculture and biochemistry and things that they can come back and apply to the farm. If you have your child, you want them to go and learn, add knowledge so that they can come back to the business and amplify it. But for us, go and do computer science, go and do that, go, because they don't want you to come back to the farm. So if you lose this younger workforce, what are you losing? The new technology, efficiency, cutting down cost of production, going with the times. So that's a very big problem. So for me, as a younger man, I felt like by representing these young people, it might start attracting them and seeing how we can actually go to market to see whether we can tell the story. I'm telling the story because I'm born and raised on a coffee farm. Everything that I'm telling you is not read. It's what I've gone through. It's what I go through every time I go to Puerto Rico, I go to Ethiopia, I go to Kenya. It's the same challenges that the coffee farmers are facing. And of course, the reforming of the systems and initial disruptions. What this means is that these countries are creating policies, but they are not able to apply the policies. And when they apply, these big importers, they strike on the product. They're like, okay, we are moving to another country that is a little bit more lenient to us. So that equitable value distribution is a big risk to continuity of coffee. So what you're going to see is artificial coffee. And I'm sure I was talking to a gentleman here, and he was talking about the caffeine. And I was like, coffee should be an experience plus the caffeine. There's a time when you drink it just to relax and feel good about it. And it should be enjoyed like that. But what we have seen is that these big companies, they come, they get outside of their business. Some of them are in the ambience business, but they're producers. They're becoming one of the largest producers of coffee in the world. So they go and rent these farms out from the farmers at a throwaway price, because the farmer is either going to lose the plants or the farm. So they just end up giving them the farms, and then they come, now their raw materials are very cheap. You have these mom and pop shops, these beautiful local shops that you should all be going to buy your coffee from, because those are the people that we work with, who are willing to go directly and support the farmers, support the communities. So they make it very difficult for these people to compete or to even make margins, right? So there is that lack of equitable value distribution is what is challenging the value chain. And if it's done right, you all are willing to pay that $15. Did you hear me saying that we are going to add $2 or $3 to the consumer? No. If the consumer remains at that price and there is equitable value distribution in between, then the farmer can remain on the farm. So that's what we do. We try to educate people about what it takes to produce coffee. It's one of the most strenuous jobs. You harvest a tree, you wait for 3 years, then you wait for 3 years for it to start bearing fruits, and you can only harvest it twice in a year, a mini crop and a main crop at the end of the year. And all this time, there are people on the farm who are working. You need to pay them. If you don't get rain, you have to think, am I going to lose all my crop, or am I going to have to substitute? Irrigation comes in. We have our little yards here. You know how much it costs just to do irrigation for your lawn. So now you think of a big farm, right? So we are just trying to see, not we are trying, we are actually doing it. We are educating the consumer so that you can source ethically. Do your research, especially if it's something that you enjoy, just like you do with wine. You know, when you go to the vineyards and you're tasting wine and you're having that experience, it should be the same with coffee. We don't work this hard for you just to drink the coffee just for the caffeine. It should also be for the experience. And that's what the big companies are not showing you. They're showing you a totally different experience. The flashy summer drinks and wine. Instead of showing you what it takes, instead of taking you to these highlands and seeing how much people are working hard to get you a cup, 2 cups, 3 cups. How many drink 5 cups like me? So we are B2B, B2C. So we work with roasters and also direct consumers. I have some coffee here if you want to buy a pack. And if you scan that code, it will take you to a link tree. And our journey, because we want more people, we are trying to close in the loop, create more feedback channels between the farm and the consumers. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Peter. Okay, do we have any questions for Peter and for his company and what he's doing with his business? Bear?
How big is your coffee Solai global market? Are you distributing to Europe or only to the States, or how it works?
So right now we are only doing to the States. Yeah, we haven't expanded to Europe. I have my brothers back home, and they are starting to get into the business, and the market that they're looking at is East and Europe.
For me, distribution a big problem for you for getting it to different places, or it's a question of investment?
It's a question of investment, because we are shipping this coffee in containers, and logistics actually is what takes majority of the money, warehousing and shipping, right? So you have to be very strategically positioned. If you're bringing a container of coffee, you really want to. It's cheaper actually to bring the container, a 40-foot or 20-foot container from Kenya through the sea to any port in the US, than now moving that from the dry transportation, like from New York to here. It's usually double the price. So you have to be very strategic. But as we pick up more farmers, we are trying to spread out. Yep.
Patrick, may I comment you on this? Patrick, I team for the last 4 years or so. It makes a lot parents and neighbors and everything. Reliable. Anyway, your country will. And the key thing is ability to cut the middleman as best as possible. Intelligent. That's where there are about 12 steps of your business. The one is you want to make sure like it, love it, but can't live without it. What a business. So marketing is okay.
Thank you, Chef.
I have one comment and one question. The comment is, a lot of us know Richard Garrow. Richard Garrow worked for the people at Starbucks, and he built all but 9 of the Starbucks east of the Mississippi River. What Starbucks does is every one of their executives has to taste a cup of coffee and tell what country the coffee bean came from. That's pretty good. And Rich will tell you that Kenyan coffee is the best coffee in the world. So that goes to your question about how good is this stuff.
Yeah.
My question is, since it takes so long to produce a tree, how quickly could you adapt, even if this was able to happen? Because are they willing to invest to build new farms?
They're willing. Show me the money. Right now, I don't know whether you've seen the news, but the kids are in the streets. The Gen Zs, they have taken over they're almost taking over the government. The guy is hanging on, I don't know, because they're not advocating for the young population, which is 70% of the Kenyan population. So what's happening is that these kids don't want to go back to the farms because they have been brought up and the farm is depleted. What is left is for their parents to use for retirement. So they're not lazy, honestly. They just want to work on a business that makes sense. They want to work smart. That's the first thing. So you're not going to have someone plowing there with a donkey. No, these kids want to work smart. So they want the technology. They want the efficiency. That price that I showed you $6 farm gate. Give the farmer $4, and they're in business. And all these people who are unemployed, all these problems that we have in these communities with mental health issues and drug addiction, they will go away because now the people are kept busy. Yeah. So yeah, if there is opportunity to invest, the farmers are more than willing.
Eric?
Where do you actually ship the coffee into, and where is it roasted?
So this is where we do the dry milling. We do a lot of post-harvest stuff at the farm level. Then there's the dry milling. And then dry milling is now removing the outer husk and putting the coffee in safe bags to withstand the import process through sea. And then this is the exit port. It's another city in Kenya by the coast. Very beautiful, just like Florida. And then we come in now through either New York. This year we are trying to come in through Jacksonville. And then we warehouse in Longwood, in Buffalo, Minnesota, Jacksonville, I-10, I-95, very strategic, and South Bend for the Midwest market. So we bring in the container, and then we have one place of distribution. Now we pull a couple of bags in different states based on the market. Yeah.
Where's the roast?
So I have 2 roasters. For tall roasting, for my B2B, I use Jacksonville, bigger capacity. And then for my small batch, the coffee that we drink here, downtown Credo, they are by the conduit. Yeah.
So I'm not sure, and maybe you've answered this, but maybe you haven't. I don't understand who you're trying to market to right now. Are you trying to market to wholesalers? Are you trying to market to retail? Very different business models. What's your focus?
So my focus is on both, and this is the reason. I realized we are new, and it has taken me some time to actually understand that I am not really selling the coffee. The coffee is the byproduct. What I'm trying to do is to amplify the story of the coffee producers.
Right.
And these 2 markets need the story. The roaster needs the story so that they can use the story to their consumers. We have this new product, it's from Kenya, it's from this person, right? And then we have the consumer who hears the story and they're like, how can I support? I need that product. And that's the market.
So, in other words, you're selling to consumers and you're figuring out your marketing channels.
Correct.
Wholesaler is a marketing channel, and retail is a marketing channel.
Correct.
I just ran a core story AI while we were talking here, and it's not clear in your website what you're doing.
Okay.
And so there needs to be some more clarity here. Right now, it's kind of unsure about, because if you're selling the coffee by the story, you got to sell the story.
Yes.
100% for everywhere. Then you can have opportunities for wholesalers and opportunities for retailers. So your small batch processing, you package it up or you sell them in bulk, whatever that is, those are just marketing channels. Right now, all you're doing is you're not clear on those different channel opportunities.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, that's good feedback. Just something to highlight about the website. I learned that the wholesale side will not go to the website. And if they are going to the website, it's after they have called you. So we try to target them through expos and the door to.
Not disagreeing with that.
Yeah.
But your website isn't, there just needs to be some real clarification on it, because you got a great story. I mean, I've also talked to people, I know people that have run nonprofits in Uganda making jewelry, and then bring it back to the US and do the same kind of things with jewelry makers to help them become independent. Okay. And they ended up doing a for-profit version that funds the nonprofit because it was just too. But we got to get your, on your website, you should have that, option for wholesalers. But yes, they're going to mostly come through trade shows. I get that. But it just needs to be a little more clear on the website.
Okay.
Caroline, did you have a question?
A comment. I had a question, maybe less relevant. So if Scott wants to cut me off before the question for this time. I just basically comment. It is feedback, quasi feedback. I guess I don't know. But sorry, you can cut me off if it's not relevant.
Go ahead.
I think it's fascinating that I didn't know you were going to present today, and on my way here, I was listening to the Joy FM's Christian radio station. I'm not even Christian, but whatever. And they were talking about the coffee companies. They were talking about how Starbucks, when they started, they were more about the comfortability with the coffee's about that community and sharing the experience instead of just the product. And since they've changed, I don't know if I just made change a verb, but they said that now it's a bunch of high execs coming in and coming out, and you can't even find a comfortable chair in there anymore. And one of the radio personalities was saying that what she values about coffee is the community that you get from it. So I loved how you were saying we're selling joy in a cup, and then to further that story is you're selling the community. And I don't like saying you're selling the community, that sounds terrible, but you're bringing the community in the cup as well, and that ties it back into your story of bringing the community that you're serving back into. So but my question was just for me, it was a really stark comment when you said what keeps me going is the oppression, and I was just how? Because I've seen minority groups all the time. It's okay, there's all this stuff that we're getting against us, and let's just do the opposite of crippling to it and rise up. And just how have you done that? That was my question.
Yeah. I actually thought it was going to be harder, and I learned it's very simple. The impact that we are bringing back to the community just by improving our farming practices, which means you have to bring more people to the farm. That means that now a mother and a father of 3 kids can work 6 days in a week and keep their kids to school. Because you know what happens? If they don't work Tuesday and Thursday, but they work Monday and Wednesday and Friday, on Saturday when the kids are not to school, they pull them. They go to work together so that they can make up because these people almost survive on and they live on a day pay kind of thing. So you start investing little things like that. People start seeing what you're doing, and you start seeing also kids who are in the city who left their parents, who are like, I'm just waiting for this old man to die so that I can sell this farm or I can do something else with the farm. They started changing their mindset. You have seen them now going back to the farms, even if they're not going all the way in. They start doing stuff, and they're calling me, man. I've started investing here. Do you think we can find market there? You know, so those little things. We take visitors with us to Kenya, seeing those people using their resources and their time to come and learn about their trade. And these are not just buyers, people who are just my subscribers on the website. I want to go with you when you're going to Kenya. It adds a lot of oomph. It's the hope. So we are going to do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
The stock markets, coffee is listed as one of the primary commodities, along with gold, wheat. Do you feel like you're working with commodity?
Oh, I'm working with an experience. Sip that coffee, close your eyes, you'll find yourself in Solai somewhere.
Do we see maybe a
So-
shift?
So this is what happens with the sea market. The sea market is used mostly for commercial coffees. It's a very unfair trading style because it doesn't factor in inflation, the cost of production, climate change. It doesn't do that. Luckily, and unluckily, when they're selling specialty coffee, they usually look at the sea market and then see how much they're going to add to the specialty coffee based on the capping. Specialty coffee just means it's a coffee that has surpassed 80 of 100 in terms of certain elements. There is an organization called Specialty Coffee Association, so it's not a commodity. And when it's being traded there as a commodity, I like to say that there are those farmers. I appreciate commercial coffees because they have a market. They're necessary, especially for that person who is like, I just need caffeine. I just need to go to Wawa. Someone asked me, I don't get the difference. When I drink this coffee, I drink that coffee, I drink from Wawa, I drink from 7-Eleven, it tastes the same because it's commercial coffee and it's all roasted dark. And when it's burnt, it tastes the same. I'm not saying it's bad coffee. I'm just saying coffee is all about preference. So what makes you happy? But when they're trading, when that person, the farmer, is trading that coffee and they know it's a commercial coffee, that's the most important thing. But we have seen now these commercial coffees taking our marketing language into the commercial coffee.
Fair, and then Nathan.
Love your presentation, but I think you have to put some of your compassion into your slideshow.
Okay.
There are no faces. There's nobody. It's just a field of coffee plant. Your father should be there, perhaps, and somebody else who shows their suffering, what they have gone through to get where they are today. And I think this is what sells coffee. This is what sells any product to people, because they want to be identified with you and with your product.
Okay. We put together the slides very quickly.
Nathan.
And you refused to play the video.
Which
I was
has
late,
5
it's me.
There's a video. We'll make sure that when we get this up on YouTube, there'll be a link. We'll probably get that into the other socials and link for that so we get that thing.
Have you ever thought about bringing an experience, not just from the coffee, but an explainers? Like, whenever I used to be a bartender, there were bourbons that were $150 a pour and bourbons that were $10 a pour. As part of selling a $150 pour, we explain the entire presence of that bourbon in the mash build of it and how it's supposed to taste and where you hit where whenever we drink coffee, we go to a store and it's just a cup of coffee and now it's $7 instead of $2 and it's painful sometimes. That's how we relate to it as a consumer. I don't know, putting on 5 different coffees and saying this is an experience, taste it, kind of like a 5-course dinner.
Yeah, we kind of do it, and it has an uptake. This weekend I was in Tampa doing exactly that, and I'm very excited to see that there were fewer roasters than just regular coffee enthusiasts. So just love. Here in Orlando, they have a community coffee culture. That's a new organization that has been doing like they're trying to promote baristas and bring, very important industry. And I want to continue doing that. I want to, get to a point where I can rent space and do exactly that.
I'm gonna have our final question here in a minute, but I've got a couple things that I want to throw in here. One, something that was kind of missing from your deck was your ask and what you're looking to do as far as growing the growing your company and where you want to take it next. And you mentioned a couple times about investors, and I don't know where you're at with looking for investors or what you would want to do with investor money, but I think that there's opportunity for you to bring in some new technologies, like you said, improving how the business is done. And I think that if you take that opportunity in what you're doing in your own family business and being able to scale that into how you can help other farmers in Kenya, in the area, to attract the younger generation back into that business as something that, oh, wait a second, they're applying new technologies, new ideas, new methodologies, and I think you can potentially start a movement with that at the same time as building your own company and achieving the things that you're wanting to achieve as far as getting the middlemen taken out and improving that. So that's maybe something to explore. I'm going to ask our final question. What can we, as the Orlando chapter of 1 Million Cups, do for you?
Help us tell the story. If anybody drinks, sells coffee, you can send us them our way. And we're also looking for opportunities to actually work with colleges. We are talking with Texas A&M, who just created a curriculum for coffee, to see whether we can, take them to the other side, the production side, to see how we can fix that issue. The cost of production is a big issue, and it can be eliminated by efficiency, mechanization, using modern stuff, not really removing the human element, but substituting where possible. Yeah. So that QR code will take you to my link tree, and it has a lot of other links, and that's our stuff. Thank you.
Okay, well, again, thank Peter for presenting today and for supplying us with our coffee. It's wonderful, and we hope that you have enjoyed the experience of Solai coffee today. We're going to skip past that because we are kind of approaching our end. All right, we are officially moving to the downtown location on the 31st. So 2 weeks from today, we'll be at 36 West Pine. This is Pine Street. This is Orange Avenue. This is the interstate. Parking lot here, parking garage here. They're both about $2 an hour. So to come here and enjoy networking before and after, it's going to cost you $4. Hopefully you think that's worth it. We wanted to avoid having people pay for parking because, again, we're a no money organization. We obviously get none of that $2, but that's where we're going to be, and that's the reality. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows that there is parking available, and it's going to cost about $2. Station? Oh, train station. This is Church Street. So your train station is right here. So if, like I said before, if you're coming from Winter Park, you want to grab the train there, or Points North. If you're coming from Point Siena, why do you live in Point Siena? I'm sure you'll love it. It's a wonderful place. Yeah, Sunrail does come in just a block away, so it's very convenient for that.
What is the name of the place that we're going to?
It is being called Tech Hub. I don't know that they're doing that they've got any branding out there yet for it.
Big sign that say UCF, you can't miss that.
Yeah, well, they're taking down the UCF. UCF owns the building. Innovate Orlando is the organization that is actually the lease holder, and they're the ones that are
Starter-
providing the space.
Starter Studio will be there.
Starter Studio is there. The incubator, where we're at right now, their downtown location has moved there. Orlando Game Space has their presence there. A lot of other companies. It's kind of like a co-working space, but geared specifically toward tech companies, highly toward tech companies. And you know, they are, if you're looking for a space and you have a tech company and you'd like to be kind of in the heart of everything, you can talk to them about that. I don't know anything about that yet, but I will be getting more information. It was where UCF had their executive MBA program pre the downtown campus. When downtown campus moved in, they incorporated that over there, I believe. So that's the building hasn't been used in a couple of years, so they're still getting a few things worked out. When we move in there, it's going to be a little bit of a transition. So you know, we hope everybody enjoys the experience that we have there. It's a 100-seat auditorium. So if anybody remembers back when we were at Rollins, it was about the same size. So we're in a nice space like that. Not entirely sure where we're going to be doing the networking. We might be doing the networking in the auditorium area. There's a space up front that we can do that. Still working that out, and where we'll have the coffee and everything. Let everybody know that on August 7th, so our second week there, the Southeast representative of 1 Million Cups headquarters, her name is Kinsey. She's going to be joining us and giving a short presentation about Kauffman Foundation and about 1 Million Cups as an organization. So if you want to learn a little bit more than what you get from me, Kinsey will be here on that day, and she'll be able to answer questions that you have afterwards as well. And we're getting our lineup put together for the companies that we're gonna have present there. So like I said, if you are looking to present, please get with us, and we'll figure all that out. Again, please follow us on all the socials. Like I say, if you have something nice to say about us, please say it publicly and proudly. If you have something that you don't like about this, then post something nice about us on somebody that you don't like's feed, and that'll show them. But we need to update this. Peter, you need to get with Eric, and each one of these spots that has a coffee cup where Solai coffee is available, we need to put your logo there. But these are locally owned coffee shops around the area. There's 1 or 2 or 100, and so we encourage you to go to them. We encourage you to work with small businesses and locally owned businesses. The big guys are doing just fine. So we encourage you to work with entrepreneurs in your own local area. And with that, next week we are working on the presenters that we are going to have for the next couple weeks. Like I say, if you are interested in presenting and you've applied, there's a couple more steps that you have to take. So we do encourage you to get with either Josh. You can drop me a note. I'm going to be traveling the next few days, so I may or may not respond. But feel free to reach out to Josh or Orlando at 1millioncups.com, and we'll get you scheduled in. With that, we will see everybody here next Wednesday. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sorry it took me a year to get here.
Well,
Well, now that I'm self-employed, I got more places.
your boss maybe let you go a little more?
Yeah. I'll tell you, if Rupert's